Businesses in the area say that they don't have a problem with the people who are here, but they do have a problem with this. Take a look at this trash.
And I asked him, yesterday the focus was on security and strategy and how he felt that played out today.
There were thousands of homes across the city of Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach left just like this one.
More than 70 of them experiencing outages at the Fort Myers Beach Marina, where dozens of boats just like this one still sit. And the polls have closed for most Floridians, but you can hear that the party is just getting started.
The first is an advisory, which means that the bacteria levels in the water exceed the state standards. And there's a new warning sign that will be posted if they believe that there could be sewage in the water.
Trump was the front runner. He scored about 16% higher than Governor Ron DeSantis.
While many were confused at the timing of the indictment, none of them said that they were surprised that it actually came down.
This banning of books was put into high gear in March of last year when the governor signed a bill asking for more curriculum transparency. I'm Sophia Hernandez in Okeechobee, Florida, where Florida farmers are turning cow manure into power, where they have created a one-of-a-kind approach to control mosquitoes, and it starts with a truck.
Oh yeah, Leah, that's right. This scarecrow might catch me if I'm not too quick. Got some fabulous hats like the one that I'm sporting right now. Tony was so gracious to let me borrow her hat. She handmade this. Take a look.
This is a community of good folks.
Fred Olson lives on this side of State Road 70. His church, Peace River Mennonite Church, has been collecting donations by the dozens.
I'm a little bit surprised. Fuel. We're sending some fuel over. I guess there's no fuel on that side, probably because of power.
His brother, who he rode out the storm with, lives just past this flooding that now covers what once was the Peace River campground.
Flooded unbelievably, so we couldn't make it into Arcadia and tried alternate routes. There was no way to get through.
Fred says the flooding here is worse than anything they experienced during Hurricane Irma. It's why other members of their church from as north as Pennsylvania will be coming in caravans with even more donations.
God is going to bless y'all 700 times over, love.
To give to those like Charlotte Paget.
It's a blessing. We have so many families in need.
Charlotte is collecting what she can for her students and families. And while their car has been filled to the brim over and over again, it still isn't enough.
But they're all thankful, thank the good Lord that they're safe and everybody's alive, and we'll eventually get through this one day at a time.
Sophia Hernandez, Florida 24 Network.
You are doing it! What is wrong with you?
Screaming neighbors giving one final plea Monday morning as they see their beloved palm trees on Newport Avenue taken down.
It was shocking because they weren't like the tallest five. There are five that aren't diseased.
The city of San Diego says they removed these trees because they were told by the airport authority and FAA that the tall palms were an urgent threat to flight path and aviation operations. However, residents aren't buying it.
Can you imagine if a 727 or a 747 or 707 was hovering above this palm tree right here? They're not even close.
Tim Johnson has lived on this street for 40 years. He says he's never seen a plane fly over these palms, so he's just stumped as to why they had to be removed.
They're all that way. They're all north of Newport Avenue. I have this theory that maybe these five palm trees were some sort of evil triangulation device that somehow affects the airport or the government officials. I mean, that's about as logical of explanation as I can come up with because there's no other one.
The San Diego County Regional Airport Authority provided one, confirming that in October, the FAA believed these five palms were an adverse effect upon the navigable airspace at the airport. They even provided data showcasing the palm trees they are monitoring in the area. The orange highlights are the ones they removed. The airport authority told ABC 10 News the reason was because they exceeded 270 feet and 276.8 feet. But as you can see, there are other trees that didn't get removed and are higher. But the airport authority says they could be removed later.
We're just waiting for them to sneak in here, put the signs back up.
Tracy lost the tree that's been up for a century outside her home. She says she'll be ready next time, filing a restraining order and a lawsuit that will be heard in court this summer.
We're not done fighting, and again, there's a temporary restraining order going in, and I will next time probably crawl underneath a tree and get arrested.
It's all year long work for us.
John Harley is an oyster farmer.
So this time of year in the summer, we harvest early in the morning, so it'll be going out early. If I'm harvesting oysters that day, we get them back in by 11 a.m. And then the rest of the day is like washing, sorting, things like that, or headed back out to do more work raising the next crop.
He spends about 4 days a week out on Skipper Bay, an area known for years as a breeding ground for oysters. But there's been a decline here and across the Gulf Coast.
And that's been hard for people to see. I mean, it's, it's just a tough thing to come to terms with, where it seemed like an inexhaustible resource.
The reasons as to why these creatures have declined ranges from the effects of the BP oil spill in 2010 to the change in waterways, even heat.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes.
In 2020, FWC voted to suspend wild oyster harvesting in Apalachicola Bay until the end of 2025, hoping to restore more than 1,000 acres of oyster reef habitat. Farther west in Pensacola Bay, the Nature Conservancy created what they call the Oyster Fisheries and Habitat Management Plan, restoring close to 1,500 acres over the next 10 years to create a more resilient ecosystem for oysters. Because wild harvesting is uncommon nowadays, aquaculture, a fairly new concept, has taken hold. It's the process of breeding shellfish, an effort that John works hard to maintain.
The oysters need to be here, and not just for the food on your plate, but like you'll see when we're out there, every other little critter lives in that oyster. It's making its own ecosystem.
So John takes us out to where the hard work is done. The first step.
They really are baby oysters.
I'm telling you.
And look at that, a little crab.
Is placing these babies into bags and then floating cages where they could stay for up to 9 months. Sometimes little critters or algae will try to invade, which is why they sometimes get tossed around to help them continue to grow and create that perfect circular shape.
You were saying that this is like the toughest farming out there.
The oysters themselves are amazingly not that fragile. I mean, so most oysters that you've ever eaten have been alive. Hopefully if you're eating raw oysters, they're alive until you open them up. Breakfast.
It's why it's essential that the oysters at the bar are healthy, that they grow up to look like these, ready for market. But not all are lucky.
I hate that, because that's just one that was just like giving up the ghost. And that's hard because, you've raised it for that long. It's like right when it's starting to get worth something, that's when it dies.
In order to keep these animals thriving, these estuaries need to stay clean.
Because oysters are filtering a ton of water, they clear that sediment and other stuff that's in the water from the water column, allowing light to get down to grow your seagrass.
It's the reason, at least for now, that these oysters have been able to steadily grow. But the work towards being able to wild harvest once again is still a long ways to go.
Like having a bunch of oysters out here, we try to grow some wild ones that will reproduce. And I think we see it some where some of the areas are kind of coming back with wild oysters. But these are looking nice so far. So something I know a lot of us would really like to do is, grow our market oysters and sell them, but then also have like oysters that we grow just for restoration, just to be out there.
Sophia Hernandez, Florida 24 Network.